So today, it's going to definitely, as always, I preach to myself before I preach to y'all. And it stepped on my toes, so I hope y'all brought some steel-toe boots. When I went, I didn't know nothing about steel-toe boots, so I worked at NASCAR Speed Park that was at the St. Louis Mills. And I was like, why we need steel-toe boots? And then one time when I was working with go-karts, one of the go-karts ran over my toes, and good thing I had some steel-toe boots on. And I was like, oh, now I see the reason. But today we're going to be in the book of Genesis chapter 13. Be reading the verses 1 through 9. Some of y'all like, that's a lot of reading, but it's probably the most reading of the Bible y'all have done in a while. So Genesis 13, ouch already, told you. 1 through 9, be reading from the Christian Standard Bible. Abram went up from Egypt to the Negev, he, his wife, and all he had, and Lot went with them. Abram was very rich in livestock, silver and gold. He went by stages from the Negev to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had formerly been, to the site where he had built the altar. And Abram called on the name of the Lord there. Verse 5. Now Lot, who was traveling with Abram, wait a second, Lot is with Abram, also had flocks, herds, and tents, but the land was unable to support them as long as they stayed together. For they had so many possessions that they could not stay together. And there was quarreling between the herdsmen. There was some beef going on between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. At the time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were living in the land. So Abram said to Lot, please, let's not have any quarreling between you and me, or between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, since we are relatives. Isn't the whole land before you? Separate from me. Somebody say, separate from me. Separate from me. If you go to the left, I will go to the right. If you go to the right, I will go to the left. Separate from me. Somebody say, separate from me one more time. Separate from me. Today's sermon topic is disengage. Disengage. And I love to give y'all a definition. Disengage means to separate or release someone or something from something to which they are attached and connected. So disengage. And let's be honest, and I'm guilty of it too, some of us are attached to people that have no value, that add no value to us, and we need to go ahead and disengage. We need to go ahead and disengage. Some of us are in relationships and friendships and partnerships that we are connected to, that we need to be disconnected from, that we are attached to, that we need to detach ourselves from, release ourselves from, and remove ourselves from, because there is simply no value. Some people that we are connected to emotionally and physically that we need to go ahead and disconnect from. And can we be honest and say, that's me? That's me. It's some people that add no value into your life, but you show loyalty to them, and they are not for you in the season of life you're in right now. And some of us need to look that relationship, that partnership, that business partnership, that opportunity, whatever it is, your situationship, and just say deuces. Chunk up the peace sign and just say deuces. For the sake of my sanity, for the sake of my peace, for the sake of my purpose, we need to go ahead and separate. We need to go ahead and part ways for the sake of my blood pressure. Some of us, your blood pressure is being negatively impacted because of some people in your lives. And you trying to see, why is my blood pressure all of a sudden? It's that person. Like I need something. Hey, you need to remove yourself. You need to go ahead and disengage for the sake of your blood pressure. Is that a right assessment this morning, that some of us are struggling, removing ourselves from certain people because loyalty. And we need to just say, you know what, I don't got time for this. Life is too short. In the words of Maxine Waters, I need to reclaim my time. And life is too short for me to spend my time being tied up with you. And am I the only one that's guilty of that? Like, I love to, tell y'all my story too. Like, I'm guilty of keeping people in my life beyond their season, longer than they should have been in, especially when I was like, God told me to leave them alone. But because of my own will, my own drive, and my own loyalties, because some of us are loyal to a fault. Knowing you need to go ahead and separate yourself and part ways, but you still so loyal. Now, I know my family close to me know this story, but I'm guilty of it, keeping someone in my season. Like, I remember my high school relationship. My senior year of high school, I was in a relationship, and who all know puppy love? You think this is it? You think this is it? Like, oh, this is cool, and then we got high school couple of the year. Like, ooh, that sounds good. High school couple of the year. High school is a season. We was high school couple. I said, oh, we're going to keep this fire going after high school as well. And then we got to that point where I went off to school, she stayed here, and there's nothing like trying to keep the fire going into what God is trying to eliminate. God is trying to extinguish something, yet you still trying to stir it up and keep it going, and that can cause some frustration. And a lot of us can be frustrated because we're trying to hold on to something that God is trying to separate you from, remove yourself from. And I was like, this is high school. And here I am in another season of my life trying to bring something from high school into the new season of my life. And now I'm in a new season of my life, all frustrated and confused because of what I brought from the old season of my life. And some of us have made a decree, especially when a new decade came. Like, this decade gonna be different from last decade. And now you in your new decade. I'm already ahead of my message, but some telling you already in a new decade. And you in a new decade all frustrated, stressed out, all confused, not knowing it's because of what you brought from your old decade. And I see it a lot. Especially in school. Like all those seniors, you getting ready to go to college, you try to keep something going into the next season. And now you're frustrated because it's not like what it was in high school. And you try to hold on to it, but it's just causing more frustration. And now you got a headache. People give you a headache. Trying to hold on to something that God is trying to get you away from can give you a headache. Because it's some people that God is trying to, you need to go ahead. In order for me to do what I need to do in your life, you need to go ahead and step aside, tell them deuces. But now you have a headache because you're trying to hold on. You're trying to hold on. And that you're trying to hold on to something that reached its expiration date. Because like the Bible said, there's a season. Everything has a season. There's a season for everything, and some people are just seasonal. Lot was seasonal, yet Abram brought Lot into a new season. And we saw in this text, now he's having some beef with somebody in his new season that was somebody from his old season. He's having beef. The new season is supposed to be different. Like last year, everybody loved the Level Up series. Level up. But you can't enjoy the next level because you brought somebody from the previous level with you. And you like, God, this level ain't like you said it was going to be. That's because of what you brought. This level ain't leveling. It don't feel like new. God, you say this is new, but this don't feel like new. It's not new because you brought somebody old into the picture. And everybody has a season and expiration date. And when I start researching expiration date, we see that a lot with food. And the purpose, like the dictionary says, the expiration date is the date up to which food maintains its microbiological and physical stability and the nutrient content declared on a label. That means it's important to use that food or that product before the date to get the most nutritional value from it. So that means that after the date, after the expiration date, the nutritional value starts to fade. The nutritional value starts to decline. Someone say decline. So it starts looking funny, tasting funny, acting funny, and it's because it's losing its value. And so when you hold on to something past its date, it starts to lose its value. And I don't know about you, but who drunk some spoiled milk before? Not on purpose, I hope not. But it's an accident. You know, it's an accident. Like I remember, like I said, I like some cereal, and I remember I pulled a big bowl of Raisin Bran. And yeah, I know I eat Raisin Bran. Got that from my grandparents, and I love it too. But they and I poured some milk, and I sat down eating Raisin Bran. I said, "This tastes funny. This ain't." Then you know, people like, it's Raisin Bran, it's supposed to be nasty. Like, no, this. I tasted Raisin Bran plenty of times. I grew up on it. And this don't taste like Raisin Bran. It tastes like this milk is spoiled. And I was so upset, I spit it out, and I went and I looked at it, and of course the milk was spoiled. And I poured it down the drain. It was so spoiled, even the drain was trying to spit it back out. Like, no, I don't want this either, buddy. Oh, you're going to take this milk. And so, but anytime you see a spoiled product in your fridge, you immediately say, why is this still in the refrigerator? Why is this milk still around? And some of us are in relationships that spoiled 2 years ago. You in situations that spoiled 2 years ago. You in friendships that is spoiled 2 years ago. That friendship spoiled in high school. And yet you 40 still holding on to it. Like I said, I'm guilty of it as well. Especially when I went to my high school reunion, people try to rekindle like, nah, that was 10 years ago. That relationship spoiled a whole decade. Don't try to slide in my DMs now. I'm like, no. And you immediately ask the question, like, why is this spoiled product still around? And a lot of us are in a spoiled relationship or spoiled. Like, even when it comes to, it's more than just relationships as a couple, but you got friendships. And you also got like business partnerships. People try to do business with one another like, nah, that was cool back then. But in this new season, I have to separate myself for the sake of my peace and for the sake of my sanity. And when you hold it on to something beyond its value, you simply withdrawing from a negative account. You're expecting some value from it, but you're not receiving no value from it. Or you drawing from an empty well. How many of you have drawn from an empty well before? You're trying to draw something out of somebody that has no value. You're trying to draw out of an opportunity that has no value. And many of us are like Abram. We stand connected with someone beyond their season. Stand connected with someone beyond their date. There's no value in it, yet they're still around. You brought somebody from the old chapter into your new chapter, and now you're trying to figure out why your new chapter is similar to the old chapter. And as we see, when it's time to part ways, Abram didn't do it. And now he's dealing with the results from that decision. Like I said, God gave us the gift of choice. We get to choose. And with every choice, there's consequences. And so he made a decision in his past to not leave Lot, and we're going to get to that. And now here we are in this season, he's beefing with Lot. Him and his herdsmen are beefing with Lot and his herdsmen. Disengage. Someone say disengage. Remember, in Genesis chapter 12, God gave the promise to Abram and his descendants, not Lot. So the text came from chapter 13, but to really understand it, we need to go to Genesis chapter 12 So if you put Genesis chapter 12 on the screen, you will see the text. So Abram departed. So the Lord said to Abram, leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family. Leave your native country and your relatives and your father's family and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessed. Don't that promise sound good? I will bless those who bless you and curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families on earth will be blessed through you. And verse 4. So Abram listened. And you hear a promise like that, you getting up and leaving. He departed as the Lord has instructed, and Lot went with him. Wait a second. Last time I checked, Lot was his nephew. And last time I checked, a nephew was a relative. So verse 1, he says, leave your native country and your relatives. Verse 4, Abram said, okay, cool, I got you. And then he went and grabbed Lot and went with them. That sounds like something we would do. Like, this promise is for me and my people. Like, wait a second now. God put that on your heart. You dragging people on in that he didn't say nothing about. He said leave them, but you say, you know what, if I'm blessed, we all blessed. Like, oh, come on. Everybody getting the hook up. But he said, leave your relatives. He said, leave your relatives. So he followed through partially. It says, so if we look at what Abram did, leave your native country, check. He got that. Leave your relatives. In school, we call that partial credit. He got partial credit for his move. So in a sense, in a spiritual sense, that's called partial disobedience, which is still disobedience. But wait a minute, you mean Abraham, the man seen as a father of faith, was that at a point in his life disobedient? He had a season where he partially obeyed God. That was Abraham. This is Abram. He wasn't Abraham yet. Now, Abram will eventually and certainly become a giant of faith and obedience, yet he did not start off that way. So we see Abram as an example of growing in faith and obedience. See, we look at spiritual goats in the Bible, people of faith and the decisions they made, and yet Abram will eventually become Abraham, who the obedient, like almost killed his own son because God told him to. But he didn't start off that way. He had to grow into it. He had to grow into it. And for a second, I just want to talk about growth. You have to grow into it. See, a lot of us, we look at the final product like, oh, I can't have faith like Abraham. That's too much. I can't imagine doing what he did, having that strong faith. But Abram had to grow into Abraham. Abram had to grow into that faith. He had to grow. Genuine faith is all about growth. It's all about progression, not perfection. I say that all the time. You have to grow into full obedience. It's all about growth. It's all about growth. You have to grow. A lot of times we get so focused on the end result and we can get so discouraged, like I can't meet that. But you have to grow into it. That person didn't start off that way. That person didn't start off that way. Even when you look at all the dreamers out there, all the entrepreneurs, you look at people that's been doing it for years, they had to grow into that. And when I started doing comedy, I used to sit at the comedy clubs and watch all these heavy hitters I seen on TV, like, how they doing that? How they doing that? But then I heard a story on how they start out the same way I started. Or even when I take this position I'm in now, growing up, I remember in teenage years, sitting there watching Bishop, like, how he doing all that? Every Sunday, how he doing all that? That takes growth. And for a second, let's just thank God for growth. You're not where you want to be, but thank God you're not where you used to be, that you've grown. You've all grown. That takes faith. You have to understand that growth is a process. Everybody has to grow. Abram had to grow. As you see, he started off when God told him to leave, he partially obeyed. He didn't just go and say, you know what, I'm dropping everything and leaving. No, he took Lot with him. It's all about growth. And the problem is I'm seeing that some people don't give people the opportunity to grow. You see it a lot. Somebody make a mistake, they big on, hey, and instead of letting, they got to grow. You was a teenager too. You did some dumb stuff too. But you had to grow. That person you are right now, you had to grow. That husband you are right now, you had to grow into it. That wife, you had to grow into it. That mother, you had to grow into it. That father, it's all about growth. But we can spend so much energy judging someone at where they at right now until the point they are too discouraged to even grow. But we have to, everybody needs growth. Abram had to grow into the man we know as Abraham, the father of faith, the goat of obedience, who almost, that's a powerful story, almost sacrificed your son who you waited years. God asked him to told him to sacrifice his promise. And some people are like, God, imagine something that you really wanted, that you've been waiting for. And you finally got it, and God said, okay, give it back to me, sacrifice it. Look at y'all like, I got to grow into that faith. I got to grow into it. But it's all about growth. Even Jesus had to grow. The Bible says he grew in wisdom and stature. Jesus had to grow. So everybody has to take time to grow. And then some people, when it comes to growth, overlook the growth that somebody else made. You judge people based on the old version and not knowing that, hey, that was the old me. I've grown since then. You keep bringing up what I used to do, but I've grown since then. And I know some of you might feel that your growth is overlooked, but I'm here to tell you that God sees your growth. And let's take a second and just praise God for recognizing the growth in us. And let's take time and appreciate other people's growth, because growth is a process, because we fall in love with the end result. We fall in love with the end result, but we need to recognize that and make some noise for growth. Everybody in this room, let's grow. Let's grow. Let's grow in our faith. Let's grow in our wisdom. Let's grow in our relationship with God. Let's grow as men of God, women of God, as wives, as husbands, as fathers. Whatever that you are called to do, let's grow. Because growth is a process, and we all need growth. Amen? Amen. So Abram had to grow into the man that we know as Abraham. But we see that when God told Abram to leave his native country and leave his relatives, he didn't follow through all the way. He didn't follow through. He departed as God told him to. But he brought somebody with him that God said leave. And so he basically updated God's promise with an addendum. He was like, we just going to bring somebody along. I know you said leave him, but we just going to bring somebody along. That promise was for you. And it's like when God opened a door for you, a lot of us want increase and we want God to take us into this place and God will open a door for you, but we walk through the door and we bring in people that we supposed to be separating ourselves from, and we bringing them through that door. And now we not liking what's on the other side of the door, and we blaming God when we need to be blaming ourselves. Blaming ourselves. And there's people, and see, Lot would not be a blessing to Abram. He'll be nothing but trouble and a headache. Trouble and a headache. You're supposed to be enjoying this season of life you're in. And yet you have nothing but trouble and headache, and the common denominator is that person. There are some people in our lives that cause nothing but headache and inconvenience. And see, when we get back to the text, we see that Abram and Lot just left Egypt. And they was on their way to the Negev, but they just left Egypt, which was very interesting in the fact that they just left Egypt. Like, why were they in Egypt? And they were in Egypt because, yet again, of Abram's disobedience. Abram's disobedience. See, when he got up and left, like God told him to, he took Lot and he did go to the promised land. He did go to the land that God told him to go to. But when he got to that land, there was a famine. And now he's in a famine. He pitched a tent. He was in a land. He made an altar. And then there was a famine. And instead of trusting God in the famine, he went to Egypt. And I said this before in a sermon that we need to trust God in the famine. Like, it takes faith to stay still. It's easy to leave when times get hard. It's easy to trust God when times are, everything going good. Everything going good, but when a famine comes, and isn't that like we can't wrap our mind to, like, God, you told me to go to this place. I go to the place you told me to go to, now there's a famine. That don't go together. Why would you leave me? That's like God leading Moses to the Red Sea. Like, why you lead me to a dead end? Why you lead me to a place where I see no value in it? God is just saying, trust me. And instead of trusting God in a famine, he went to Egypt. He went to Egypt. And although no harm was done to Abram while he was in Egypt, it still showed up later. It still showed up later. Because, the whole, a lot of the Bible scholars and everybody who went to Sunday school and all the people that grew up in church know the story about, Sarah. She wanted a baby, and she got her slave servant to sleep with her man, sleep with Abraham, and that servant came from Egypt. And so Hagar. And so Hagar, caused some trouble down the line, and Hagar came from this decision to go to Egypt. You never know. Although you don't see the effects now, you don't know how that's going to impact you later in life. And here's the thing. Even though Abram disobeyed and didn't trust God in the famine and went to Egypt, God still protected him. God never called back his promise. Doesn't that feel good? To know that even in times when we get off track, God is still like, he's still there for us. Even when we get off track, like Abram, he went to the land and then got off track. And God still protected him. We serve a God that even when we get off track, he'll get us back on track. Even when we step away, he'll put some things in our lives to steer us back into the right direction. And one way I realize how God directs us is through rejection. That's right. Rejection. Like you hear this a lot. Rejection is God's redirection. I hear that a lot when I be hearing the sermons, and I believe Bishop said it a few times in the past. Rejection is God's redirection, because we get off track, because sometimes we don't walk by faith. We see sight. We walk with our eyes and see what's going on, and something might, and outside looking in, like we see a famine. And we go to the place where we can benefit from that looks better. The grass is greener. And then we go there and God is saying, no, I need to get you back on track. And the thing is, when he went to Egypt, the Pharaoh had to reject Abram. There was a lot of stuff in between. We could definitely get to that point on the family and the word, but a lot of stuff happened in between. And then Pharaoh had to rebuke Abram, rejected Abram, kicked Abram out, and guess what? Abram went back to the land that he left. Yes. And that's how God would allow rejection to enter your life to redirect you. Like a lot of us get so upset at closed doors, but that's God redirecting you. A lot of us get upset at failed opportunities. That's God redirecting you, because if you had it your way all the time, we'll put ourselves in some messed up situations, thinking that we know everything, thinking that we're going to do, we will go through every door, but God will have to have us experience some rejection. And so next time you are rejected by man, just know God is up to something. God is up to something. I know it might hurt, but God is up to something. It may not feel good, but God is up to something. You might be rejected from that school, but God is sending you somewhere else. You might have been rejected from that job, but God has opened up another door for you, the door that he has for you. For he said, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a future and the hope. He knows the plans. And so if you are rejected through one door, his plan was for you to go through another door this whole time. And so I just want to say, when it comes, don't force a door open, because you might not like what's on the other side. Do not force that door open. Because a lot of us, we see a door closed. No, I'm going to keep this. No, what God has for me is on the other side of this door. We try to, that's our excuse. God says there's going to be some hard times and some trouble. I'm going to go through this. No, he's trying to redirect you. But, but some of us are stubborn. Some of us are stubborn. Y'all, who be using that GPS and you go off track? And they say redirecting. Like, no, I'm staying on this. No, this is the faster way. And you like, I'm staying on this route. I am staying on this route. I'm not moving from this route. And then you upset at Siri because the route you stayed on got a roadblock. And now you like, I should have just listened. The first place. She was trying to tell me to reroute, but I was like, no, this is the best path I know. And so now, after being rejected in Egypt, Abram is now headed back to the land where God has told him to go. And so he went off track. He went to the land, went off track. God allowed rejection to enter, come in the picture. Now he's back on track. And when he came back, he was rich in livestock, silver and gold. And now Lot has been traveling with Abram. Also had flocks and herds so both parties gained a lot while in Egypt. But now there's some tension. Both of them gained a lot while in Egypt, but now there's some tension. And now Abram is now having tension with somebody he should have left in the past. Abram is now dealing with the fruit of his decision. He's in chapter 13 in the land where God told him to be. And he having tension with somebody he should have left in Genesis chapter 12 when God told him to. God told him to. Like God said, leave your relatives. He said what he said. Some of us like, God, can you say that one more time? Like what you need me to do now? Like, can you write it on the board for me or something? Like I want to make sure I'm hearing you right. Because, I'm comfortable. Define relative for me. You know what I'm talking about. But he brought somebody. He's in a land that God promised him. And he can't fully enjoy it because he's having some headache. He's having some pain. He's having some tension. He's having some beef. And his peace is being disturbed. Some of us like, this is supposed to be my place of peace. My home is my place of peace. But you invited somebody into your home that shouldn't have been there. And now your home is not peaceful. And you sitting there like, I know I should have left you alone. I know I should have left you behind. Well, when I was at UAPB and I was like, oh, I know I should have left her in high school. But I didn't. And now here I am all stressed out in college, a new season of my life, because what I decided to bring from the old season. And I knew I should have left you in high school. Some of you, like, I knew I should have left you in my 20s. Should have left you in my 30s. I should have left you last decade, but here we are. And Abram finally decided to separate from Lot after, going after, it could have been years. He finally decided. It took tension. It took some beef going on, some strife going on. It took all this mess going on for Abram, like, you know what? Separate yourself from me, please. I like how some translations say, please. Please separate from me. He was polite about it. Some of us, you can be polite about it. Some of y'all look, some like, nah, I'm going to be straight up gutter. Like, you need to leave from me. Now, I said what I said. You need to leave from me. But Abram finally decided to separate. I believe it's possible that the irritation was God trying to hey, you need to go ahead and leave your relative, like I said. And some irritation will come into our life as a sign. Like, I believe irritation and agitation is God getting your attention. Like, it's starting to be, because a lot of us get too comfortable. We comfortable with where we at because it's comfortable, it's familiar. And then a lot of times we need to be rocked a little bit, disturbed a little bit. Like I said, God would disturb and disrupt some things to get your attention. Probably everything was probably all good between Lot and Abram. Abram was probably cool. Yeah. Abram was probably kicking it. Like, I'm good, but now there's some beef going on, some strife going on, all this tension going on, and now he's probably irritated and separate yourself from me. Separate. It's possible that bothers because sometimes we can be irritated because you ever brought somebody into a place that they shouldn't be at and they just irritate you? Yes. Oh, they just get on your nerves. Yes. And when I was thinking about this, let me tell y'all something. I am no longer inviting my father to comedy shows. This man showed his butt. Y'all, I remember I took him to the Funny Bone to watch me. He didn't know how to act. I was like, you know what? You're not coming here no more. I brought you into this area, into this land to watch me. You acted a fool, so separate yourself from me, please. Mama, you remember? Oh, he was clowning, y'all. He was clowning. And I can't say he's not my daddy because we look just alike. I can't say that. I see people like, who is this? I'm like, this is my father. He acting a whole fool. Ordering all the drinks. And I'm like, do he know this cost? Like, I'm not paying for these. Yeah, he acted a whole fool. But some people you just can't bring. Some of y'all brought somebody you was dating to a work event, they acted a fool, embarrassing you, and you like, I'm not bringing you around no more. You brought them around your family, they embarrassing you, like I'm not bringing you around no more. And it was that irritation. And Abram probably, if Abram was in today's time, he probably, look, I brought you into this land with me to enjoy, and you just irritating me. Irritating my soul, you agitating me, so just go ahead and just skedaddle. Like, just deuces. Disengage, please. Disengage. So next time you are in some tension going on, just say disengage. Disengage. We need to. You can just text that too. Somebody you know you shouldn't be messing with, after years they hit you up, like disengage. What you mean by that? Don't even respond. Have them wondering. Or just send them the link to this sermon. What you mean by disengage? And just send them a link. Just send them a link. And I love, this is one of my favorite verses right here. During that whole, so verse 14, we don't have it on the screen, but verse 14, it says, after Lot has separated from him. So God has something to say to Abram, But he said it after they separated. So that meant that there was some cloudness going on in the mind that God probably knew he couldn't really reach out to Abram effectively as he could because the mind was crowded. Because when people stress you out, they take up your mind. Like, all you thinking about is, good, they really irk. You ever, they really giving me a headache? They all up in your head like what, like one of my favorite basketball players, John Moran. They living rent-free. They living rent-free in your head, and it's like, we say, God, I need to hear from you, but we crowded. Our mind is crowded. Because of people. Because we're human. Like when something is bothering us, it's really hard to just take our mind away from it because we're trying to figure out, how can we get out of this? How can we fix this? You can ask anybody that went to UAPB with me my freshman. I was sitting there in my head crowded. I couldn't think about nothing else. Yeah, I'm doing good in school, but after school, I'm like, how can I fix this? Because we're trying to hold on to something that we need to disengage from. We're trying to hold on to something, and we need to detach ourselves from. We're tied to something that has no value. We are loyal to something that has no value. And we're loyal. Lot was nothing but trouble. If you read the entire story between Lot and Abram, Lot was nothing but trouble. When their flocks became too large to tend together, it wasn't Lot's idea to separate, Abram's idea. And then when he said, you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left. Lot, and I really feel like I'm going to have to do a sermon on just the decision between Lot and Abram. Why Lot chose the land he chose. It's because he walked by sight and not by faith, where Abram walked by faith and not by sight. So Lot chose something that looked good on the eye, but it wasn't beneficial to his soul. So basically, Lot chose the land that was the most appealing land. And Abram, chose his land. And here's the thing, when Lot chose the land, he was eventually, captured. He was captured. And guess who saved him when he was captured? Abram. Now, in the text, I don't know how old Abram, he's old. Abram more than 75 years old, fighting. This brother, older than 75, fighting because Lot got himself into a situation. It's some people that's always getting themselves into a situation. And you got to keep trying to bail them out and fight, and you frustrated because you're like, goodness gracious. And you can't even take care of your own business because you're trying to get them out all their trouble. Now, kids, I understand, but grown folk, that's what gets me. Like, you should know better. You keep putting yourself in this situation, saying Lot chose the decision. He chose the land. He eventually got captured. And next thing you know, Abram came to save the day, rescue his nephew. And guess what? That didn't do anything. Lot went right back, doing what he was doing. And then when God was preparing to destroy Sodom, that's where Lot was, Sodom and Gomorrah, the Bible said Abram interceded for the city. Because he knew the nephew lived there. Abram interceded. And God ultimately sent 2 angels to go rescue Lot. But Lot was so in love with where he was at, the Bible says when the angels tried to tell him to come on, he hesitated. He hesitated. That's the type of person that Abram brought into this season of his life. Somebody that will hesitate. God is about to destroy the whole city. And he was so in love with where some people just in love with drama. Some people just in love with where they at. Like you ever try to help somebody out and they don't want to be helped. You try to get them out the situation, but it seems like they just love the situation. They don't know how to live outside of the situation. And they say, he hesitated. He hesitated. And it's sitting there like, it's like Lot represents familiar. When we think about a lot in our lives, it's like somebody that represents we're comfortable with, we're familiar with. That's why a lot of high school seniors, some of them, that they're very timid and shy, they go wherever their friends are going because it's familiar. But just because they're going somewhere because it's familiar doesn't mean it's for you. And here's the thing, if you're basing everything off the season it ends right now, when you enter that new season, it's not going to be the same. It may not be the same. I hear it a lot when people, high school relationships, high school friendships, they go to college together. They get to college and it ain't the same anymore. It's not, and now you're frustrated. You're like, I went here because of you. You didn't have to. But we walk with comfort. And it's hard to step into the unknown. God called Abram to step into the unknown all the way. But Abram brought a little bit of comfort with him. He brought a little bit of comfort because some of us are loyal to a fault. And we are more loyal to man than God. More in love with man instead of the promises. I know it's scary to leave comfort. I know it's scary to leave familiar, but God, I got you. I got you. Sometimes parting ways is the best option. Yeah. Sometimes disengaging is the best option for the sake of your peace. Some of us are not at peace when you could be because you're holding on to something that God is trying to separate you. God told you to separate yourself from. And you didn't listen. And let me tell you something. And then when you do make the decision, because I'm claiming that you are going to, when you do make the decision to disengage and they start questioning your loyalty, don't give in. That's right. Amen. You've been loyal too long. You've been so loyal that you've been holding yourself back. You've been loyal to a person that has no value. I still remember, everybody know, I'm one of the biggest LeBron James fan. And I remember when he left Cleveland in 2010, that first time around. Oh, they were hot. Oh, they were upset. They questioned his loyalty. He did so much for that city in 7 years. And to be honest, outside looking in, I'm not an NBA representative or nothing, but I saw no value in staying. And so he went somewhere where he found value. And they questioned his loyalty because people would want you loyal to something that has no value. They know they have nothing to offer for you, but they do have something to offer, and that's just headache. You want a good headache? Let me in. Come on. You want to lose some sleep at night? Let me in. You want to be unease? Let me in. But God has something great for all of us. So let's stop holding on to something that has no value in our lives. God has plans for you. He loves you, and He's calling you to step into a new you. Step you into a new you, step you into a new season, but that's going to require you to leave some stuff behind. Don't carry no extra. Life is already hard. Don't make it more hard by holding on to dead things. Dead relationships, dead friendships, dead opportunities, dead weight. Don't. Disengage. Say disengage one more time. Disengage. That's what the Lord has for you today, is disengage.